The ballroom sparkled like a jewel box. Giant chandeliers hung from the ceiling, dripping with crystals that threw rainbow lights across the white marble floor. Ladies in expensive gowns twirled past men in perfect black suits. Music floated through the air like honey. Everyone was smiling, laughing, clinking their glasses together. It was the kind of party where everything cost more money than most people see in their whole lives. But then, everything stopped. Where is it? The voice cut through the music, like a knife through butter. Everyone froze. The band stopped playing mid-note. Dancers stopped mid-step. Even the waiters carrying trays of fancy food became statues. Alexander Sterling stood at the top of the grand staircase. He was tall, taller than everyone else, it seemed. His black suit was perfect, not a wrinkle anywhere. His shoes shined like mirrors. His dark hair was slicked back, without a single hair out of place. But his face was twisted with rage. "My wife's necklace is gone," he shouted. His voice bounced off the walls, making it sound like 10 angry men were yelling at once. The crowd gasped. Whispers started spreading like wildfire. The diamond necklace? The one worth $500,000? It can't be. Alexander's eyes swept across the ballroom, like searchlights hunting for criminals. His hands gripped the golden railing, so hard his knuckles turned white. "Someone in this room is a thief," he roared. People stepped back from each other. Suddenly, friends looked at friends with suspicious eyes. The happy party had turned into something dark and scary in just seconds. Then Alexander's finger shot out, pointing like an arrow at someone near the wall. "You!" Everyone turned to look. There, pressed against the wall like she was trying to disappear into it, stood Maria. She was a maid who worked in the Sterling mansion. She wore a simple blue dress with a white apron. Her hands were clasped together, shaking. Her brown eyes were wide with fear. "Me!" Maria whispered. Her voice was so small you could barely hear it. "Sir, I didn't." "Don't lie to me." Alexander stormed down the stairs, his footsteps thundering. The crowd parted like the sea, making a path straight to Maria. Nobody wanted to be in his way when he was this angry. He stopped right in front of her, towering over her small frame. "You were in my wife's dressing room this afternoon. You cleaned it. You were alone with her jewelry for over an hour." "I was just cleaning, sir, I promise." Maria's voice cracked. Tears were forming in her eyes. "Look at your hands." Alexander grabbed her wrist and held it up for everyone to see. Maria's hands were red and rough, with dirt under her fingernails from working in the garden that morning. Dirty, common, the hands of a thief who got greedy. "No, please." Maria pulled her hand back, cradling it like it was injured. "I would never steal from you. I have children, 2 little boys who need me. I would never do something that could take me away from them." But Alexander wasn't listening. His face had gone red with anger. A vein pulsed in his forehead. You saw all those diamonds, all those jewels, and you thought, why should rich people have all this when I have nothing? Didn't you? Didn't you? The crowd was pressing closer now, forming a tight circle around Maria. Their faces weren't kind anymore. They looked at her like she was something disgusting they found on their shoe. "Thief! How dare she? In our presence." The words hit Maria like stones. She sank to her knees on the cold marble floor, her hands clasped together in front of her like she was praying. Tears rolled down her cheeks. "Please, Mr. Sterling, I didn't take anything. I swear on my children's lives. I didn't take your wife's necklace." "Guards!" Alexander snapped his fingers, and 2 large men in security uniforms appeared from the edges of the room. "Search her belongings. Search her room in the servants' quarters. Search everything she owns. Tear it all apart if you have to. Find my wife's necklace." "No." Maria sobbed. "Please don't destroy my things. That's all I have. My photos of my boys, my mother's blanket. It's all I have from her before she died. Please." Alexander looked down at her with cold, hard eyes that held no mercy. "You should have thought about that before you became a thief. If we don't find that necklace in your possession, maybe we'll search your home. Maybe we'll question your children. Maybe we'll—" "Stop it." The voice was small but clear. It cut through the noise like a bell ringing in the darkness. Everyone turned. Standing at the edge of the crowd was a little girl in a bright red dress. She had curly brown hair that bounced on her shoulders and big brown eyes that looked too serious for someone so young. She couldn't have been more than 8 years old. It was Clara Sterling, Alexander's daughter. She walked forward, her shiny black shoes clicking on the marble floor. Each step was slow and careful, like she was thinking very hard about what she was doing. The crowd parted for her, staring in surprise. Children weren't supposed to interrupt grown-up business, especially not at fancy parties like this. Clara stopped right between her father and Maria. She looked up at Alexander, her small chin raised high. Her voice didn't shake at all when she spoke. "Papa," she said quietly, "you're wrong." The ballroom went completely silent. You could have heard a pin drop. You could have heard someone breathe. Alexander's face went from red to white to red again. Nobody, and especially not his own daughter, told him he was wrong. Not in public. Not ever. "Clara," he said through clenched teeth, his voice low and dangerous. "Go to your room. Now, this doesn't concern you." But Clara didn't move. She shook her head, her curls bouncing. "It does concern me, Papa, because Maria didn't steal Mama's necklace." She took a deep breath, and then she pointed across the ballroom. "She did." Clara's finger pointed straight across the ballroom, past the shocked faces and expensive dresses, to a woman standing near the refreshment table. The woman wore a dark navy dress that looked elegant and proper. She had blonde hair pulled back in a tight bun and wore pearls around her neck. Her name was Mrs. Victoria Ashworth, and she was one of the richest ladies in the city. Mrs. Ashworth's face went pale. Her hand, which had been holding a glass of champagne, started shaking so badly that the liquid sloshed over the rim. "What?" she gasped. That's ridiculous. Alexander, your daughter is confused. She's just a child. She doesn't know what she's saying." But Clara's eyes never left Mrs. Ashworth. Her voice was calm and steady, like a teacher explaining a math problem. "I'm not confused. I saw you." Alexander looked between his daughter and his guest, his anger now mixed with confusion. "Clara, Mrs. Ashworth is our friend. She would never—" "I saw her, Papa." Clara turned to face the crowd, speaking loudly enough for everyone to hear. "I was playing hide-and-seek with Maria's daughter Rosa during the party set up this afternoon. We were hiding in the hall closet near Mama's dressing room. The door was open just a crack. The ballroom was so quiet you could hear people's hearts beating. Everyone leaned in closer, hungry for every word." Clara continued, her young voice painting a picture everyone could see. "I saw Mrs. Ashworth walk into Mama's dressing room. She looked around like she was checking if anyone was watching. Then she went to the jewelry box, the big white one with the gold lock. This is absurd." Mrs. Ashworth's voice was shrill now, panicked. "Alexander, are you going to let your child accuse me of—" "Let her finish," Alexander said quietly. Something had changed in his voice. The anger was still there, but now it was pointed in a different direction. Clara nodded. Mrs. Ashworth opened the jewelry box. I saw her take out the necklace, the one with all the big diamonds that sparkle like stars. She looked at it for a long time, holding it up to the light. Then she looked around again, and she put it in her purse, the big black purse she's carrying right now. Every eye in the room turned to look at Mrs. Ashworth's handbag. It was large and black, with gold clasps hanging from her shoulder. Mrs. Ashworth clutched the purse to her chest like it was a life preserver. "She's lying. She's making this up to protect the maid. Children lie all the time." But Maria, still kneeling on the floor, looked up at Clara with tears streaming down her face. Tears of hope now, not despair. "Clara, baby, are you sure? Are you absolutely sure?" Clara walked over to Maria and took her hand. "I'm sure, Maria. I want to tell Papa right away." But then Mrs. Ashworth saw me peeking to the closet door. She put her finger to her lips and smiled at me like we were sharing a secret. She whispered, "This will be our little game, won't it, Clara? Don't tell anyone." I got scared. But when I saw Papa yelling at you, I knew the game wasn't fun anymore. It was wrong. Alexander's face had gone from red to gray. He looked like someone had punched him in the stomach. He stared at Mrs. Ashworth with new eyes, eyes that were starting to see the truth. "Victoria," he said slowly, "show us your purse." "I will not." Mrs. Ashworth backed away, clutching the bag tighter. "This is M.Y. property. You have no right." "Show U.S. the purse." Alexander's voice boomed like thunder. Mrs. Ashworth's eyes darted around the room, looking for an escape route. But the crowd had closed in, forming a wall of people. There was nowhere to run. Her face crumbled. The elegant mask she wore cracked and fell away, showing the desperate person underneath. "You don't understand," she whispered. "My husband lost everything. We're broke. We're going to lose our house. I just needed... "Guards," Alexander said quietly. "Search her bag." The two security guards moved toward Mrs. Ashworth. She tried to hold onto the purse, but one of the guards gently took it from her shaking hands. He opened it and reached inside. The whole room held its breath. The guard's hand came out holding a small velvet case, dark blue with gold edges. Everyone recognized it immediately. It was Mrs. Sterling's jewelry case, the one she kept her most valuable pieces in. The guard opened the case. Inside, nestled on white silk, was a necklace. Diamonds blazed under the chandelier lights, throwing sparkles across the walls like 1,000 tiny stars. It was the most beautiful thing most people had ever seen. It was also proof. The room exploded with noise. People gasped and shouted and pointed. Mrs. Ashworth sank to the floor, sobbing into her hands. The guard stood over her, waiting for instructions. But Clara didn't look at Mrs. Ashworth. She knelt down beside Maria and threw her small arms around the maid's neck. "I'm sorry I didn't tell right away," she whispered. "I'm sorry you got scared." Maria hugged Clara back, holding the little girl like she was the most precious treasure in the world. "You were so brave," Maria sobbed. So brave. "Thank you, mi pequeña. Thank you." The crowd's mood had completely changed. People who had been calling Maria a thief minutes ago were now wiping tears from their eyes. Some clapped. Some cheered for Clara. Some whispered about how wrong they had been. Alexander stood frozen, staring at the scene before him, his daughter hugging his maid, the real thief crying on his marble floor, the necklace glittering in the guard's hand. Everything he had been so sure about was wrong. Everything. His legs felt weak. He had almost destroyed an innocent woman's life. He had almost had her arrested, had her home searched, had her children questioned, all because he assumed the poor woman must be guilty. All because he never even considered that someone rich and elegant like Victoria Ashworth could be a thief. Shame crashed over him like a wave. He walked slowly toward Maria and Clara, his footsteps heavy. When he reached them, he cleared his throat. The sound made both of them look up. "Maria," Alexander began, but his voice cracked. He tried again. "Maria, I was wrong." The ballroom went quiet again, everyone straining to hear what would happen next. Alexander Sterling stood before Maria, this powerful man who owned mansions and companies and could buy anything he wanted. But right now he looked small. His shoulders slumped. His confident posture was gone. He looked like a man who had just discovered something terrible about himself. "I'm sorry," he said. The words came out quiet and rough, like they hurt his throat. "I accused you without proof. I was cruel. I almost ruined your life because I assumed." He couldn't finish the sentence, but everyone knew what he meant. He had assumed the poor woman must be the thief. He had judged her by her rough hands and simple dress, not by who she really was. Maria stood up slowly, helped by Clara, who held her hand tight. She looked at Alexander for a long moment. Tears still ran down her cheeks, making wet tracks through the dust on her face. The whole room waited to see what she would say. "You're sorry," Maria said softly. Then her voice grew stronger. "You're sorry now, but 5 minutes ago, you called me a thief in front of all these people. You grabbed my hand and showed everyone like I was trash. You were going to destroy my home, question my children, take away everything I have." Alexander flinched like she had slapped him. I know, and No. Maria held up her hand, stopping him. You don't get to just say sorry and make this go away. Words are easy. You have to understand what you did. Her voice shook but stayed strong. I have worked for your family for 5 years. 5 years. I cleaned your house. I cooked your food. I took care of Clara when she was sick. I stayed late when you needed me. I never complained. I never asked for more money even when my boys needed new shoes. And the first time something goes wrong, you blame me. You didn't even ask me questions. You just pointed your finger and decided I was guilty. The crowd murmured. Some people nodded. They were starting to understand how wrong this had been. How quickly they had all believed the worst about Maria just because she was poor. Clara squeezed Maria's hand. Don't be mean to Papa, she said quietly. He made a mistake. But Maria looked down at Clara with sad, kind eyes. Sweet girl, some mistakes hurt too much for sorry to fix. Your Papa has to learn that money and power don't make him right. They don't make him better than other people. Alexander's face was red again, but not with anger this time, with shame. You're right, he whispered. You're absolutely right. I don't deserve your forgiveness. But please, let me try to make this right. I'll give you a raise. No, I'll double your salary. I don't want your money. Maria's voice rang out clear and strong. I want respect. I want to be treated like a human being, not like a thing you own. I want you to look at me and see Maria, a mother, a hard worker, a person with feelings, not just the maid. The ballroom was absolutely silent. No one had ever heard anyone talk to Alexander Sterling like this. Rich people didn't get lectured by their servants. But Maria wasn't backing down. She stood tall, even though she was so much smaller than him. Even though he could fire her with one word. Clara suddenly stepped forward, putting herself between Maria and her father again. She looked up at Alexander with those serious brown eyes. Papa, Maria is my friend. She's the one who sits with me when I have nightmares. She's the one who teaches me songs in Spanish and lets me help make cookies. When I'm sick, she brings me soup and reads me stories. Mama is always too busy with her parties, and you're always working. But Maria is always there for me. Clara's voice got louder, stronger. When I fell off my bike and scraped my knee so bad it bled, Maria carried me all the way home. She washed my cut and put on the bandage and held me while I cried. She didn't care that I got blood on her dress. She just cared that I was okay. Tears rolled down Clara's cheeks now. Maria loves me, Papa. Real love, not because she has to, but because she wants to. And you almost took her away from me. You almost sent her to jail. You almost made her children lose their mama. All because of a necklace that you can buy 100 more of. Alexander dropped to his knees. Right there on the marble floor, in front of everyone, this proud billionaire knelt down so he was eye level with his daughter. You're right, he said, his voice breaking. Clara, you're so right. I was wrong about everything. He looked at Maria, still kneeling. I can't take back what I said. I can't undo the hurt I caused. But I can promise that from now on, things will be different. You're not just the maid anymore. You're Maria, your family, and I will never, ever treat you or anyone like that again. Maria was quiet for a long moment. Everyone held their breath. Would she forgive him? Would she quit? Would she walk away and leave the Sterling family forever? Finally, Maria spoke. I'll stay, she said quietly. But not because you're rich or powerful. I'll stay because of Clara. She needs someone who really sees her, really loves her. And I do. She looked at Alexander with eyes that had stopped crying but were still sad. You have a lot to learn, Mr. Sterling. About kindness. About fairness. About how to treat people who have less money than you. Your daughter knows these things already, even though she's only 8 years old. Maybe you should learn from her. The crowd burst into applause. It started with one person clapping, then another, then everyone was clapping and cheering. But they weren't cheering for Alexander. They were cheering for Maria, for her courage, for her strength, for the way she stood up for herself even when she was scared. And they were cheering for Clara, the brave little girl in the red dress, who saved an innocent woman and taught everyone a lesson about truth and love. Alexander stood up and turned to the guards who were still holding Mrs. Ashworth. "Call the police," he said quietly. "She needs to answer for what she did." Mrs. Ashworth looked up at him with red, swollen eyes. "Alexander, please. I made a mistake. I was desperate. Can't you understand?" "I understand that you stole," Alexander said firmly. "And I understand that you were going to let an innocent woman take the blame. You saw me accuse Maria, and you said nothing. You would have let her go to jail to save yourself. That's not desperation. That's cruelty." The guards led Mrs. Ashworth away. She was still crying, still trying to explain, but no one was listening anymore. The crowd parted to let them through, and then they were gone. Alexander turned back to the crowd. His voice carried across the ballroom, clear and strong. "Tonight, I learned something important. I learned that money doesn't make you right. Power doesn't make you wise. And being rich doesn't mean you're better than anyone else." He looked at Maria and Clara, standing hand in hand. "My daughter taught me that. And a brave, honest woman showed me what real dignity looks like. I hope you'll all remember this night. I know I will. Every single day for the rest of my life." The applause started again, louder this time. People came forward to shake Maria's hand, to hug Clara, to tell them how brave they were. The band started playing again. The party went on, but everything felt different now. Lighter, better. Clara leaned against Maria, tired from all the excitement. Maria stroked her hair gently. "Come on, Pequena," she said softly. "Let's get you to bed. It's been a very long night." As they walked toward the stairs, Clara looked back at her father. He stood alone in the middle of the ballroom, watching them go. He looked different somehow. Smaller, more human, like he had finally stepped down from the pedestal he'd been standing on his whole life. Clara smiled at him, just a little smile, and after a moment, he smiled back. It wasn't a big, confident smile. It was a sad, humble smile. The smile of someone who had learned a hard lesson. But it was a start. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more inspiring stories about courage, justice, and standing up for what's right. Every story we share reminds us that truth is more powerful than money, that love matters more than status, and that sometimes the smallest voices speak the loudest truths. Hit that notification bell so you never miss a story that could change how you see the world. What did you think of Clara's bravery? Have you ever had to stand up for someone who couldn't stand up for themselves? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We love hearing from you. Remember, real wealth isn't measured in diamonds or dollars. It's measured in kindness, courage, and the love we show to others. See you in the next story.